The latest polling for Mamdani from Victory Insights poll maintains that he has a commanding lead, 47% of support, with Andrew Cuomo at 29% and Curtis Sliwa at 16%. Um, I would like to start with the things we have in common, Nomiki, which is we both think that Andrew Cuomo is trash. Um, I'm going to say there are a lot of Republicans out there, like a lot, saying vote for Cuomo. If I still lived in New York City, I could not. I cannot, I could not, I will not ever vote for Andrew Cuomo for many different reasons, but also because Janice Dean is a dear friend of mine who lost her mother-in-law and father-in-law in a nursing home where COVID positive patients were put in by Andrew Cuomo, which he laughed off and has said he has no responsibility for and is completely callous in the way he talks about the death of family members. I think voting is important, and I think who you vote for matters. I can't throw away my vote. If I were in New York, I would vote for Sliwa. I just would. I'm not getting on this bandwagon. That may make me really unpopular with Republicans because there's this idea that if you vote for Cuomo, it'll somehow take out Mamdani. I don't see how that's even possible. I don't think there's enough people to make that happen. What do you make of this, like, trying to repurpose, revision, redo Andrew Cuomo, who I think is like one of the worst American politicians in modern history?
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, by the way. And
I don't know. Nomi and I are on the same page with it.
how dare you care about people's lives, Megan? Oh my,
I know. I
calling
just
on
feel
our
like being
lives.
like he killed people and like, or he's whatever
Well, and
indirectly
and
responsible for it.
sexually
We should let it
harassed women.
go.
I can't believe he has the audacity to show his face in public, let alone run for office and
No.
think he's going to win. It's insane. The hubris.
People remember this. I mean, this did not start after the pandemic. Like, it didn't start with the sexual harassment scandals, although that was the straw that broke the camel's back. It didn't start with the nursing home deaths. It didn't start with him starving the city of funds. It didn't start with him recruiting 8 Democrats to go work with Republicans in the Senate to hold up legislation that the Senate, because basically the Senate and the Assembly were Democratic, and he didn't want to veto anything because he wanted to create his own little situation. It didn't start with the fact that his own team, his circle of trust, went to jail for corruption. It didn't start with the fact that he created this thing called the Moreland Commission to investigate corruption, then shut it down when they were investigating his office. This is a man who has used homophobic slurs. He's Islamophobic now. He's sexist. He's racist. His brother is going on crazy rants online right now. It's not reflective of what the city is, but he's also been one of the key architects of why we have problems in this city. So when he complains about the MTA, it's like, well, you were the one who decided to put a bunch of real estate board guys on the MTA and not fund the MTA. And so that's the lifeblood of this city. It's not that people are jumping turnstiles and that's why, the MTA can't function. It's because he cut funding. He cut funding for education. He starved the city of resources. And now he's like, oh my God, the city's a mess. And that's something Zohran's done very well. He's like, who do you think created this mess? The
Hmm.
mess that you're complaining about. So listen, I mean, I think most New Yorkers understand who Cuomo is. I think people who vote in primaries and in the general election in these off years are very educated voters. And in New York in particular there's like hot spots where we call it the New York Times readers or any newspaper reader, they're going to be aware of what Andrew Cuomo did. With that being said, he is, of course, centering this around Israel, and he's going to be leaning in on the most conservative Zionists of this city. I don't think it's going to spill over across the board because we have a diverse group of Jewish Americans in New York with the largest population outside of Tel Aviv, but it is not all conservatives. There are
Hmm.
plenty of progressives and more moderates, and there are a lot of people like you, Megan, who say, I stand with Israel, but I also understand that Andrew Cuomo is a flagrant liar, corrupt, and a killer, frankly.
I just think what is being asked, and again, I lived in New York up until 2020, and one of the things I remember, and I don't know if you remember this, no Miki, I'm saying your new name's hard. When during the press conferences during COVID, he was making it like a comedy show, and he was talking about like his daughter's boyfriend and making spaghetti with her. And I can literally remember coming home from The View back when we were still in studio, and like being so upset where I was like, I don't give a shit about spaghetti with your daughter. I don't know what this is. And then seeing him go on his brother's CNN show with a giant fake Q-tip, like a prop comedy show, and it gave me so much anxiety. I was like, this is not who I need in a crisis. Literally, where I lived in New York, I could see the ship Comfort, which was brought in for COVID patients at the time because they thought that so many people were going to be sick and die. I just don't understand why Republicans and moderates and everyone they're asking me to say that this is a moral equivalency to Mamdani. I think they're both, my politics are very different than yours, Nomiki. I think they're both bad for totally different reasons. But don't ask me. I couldn't live with myself if I voted for Cuomo. I just can't. And I feel like I'm singing an extremely different tune that's going to like piss off a lot of Republicans. But like Curtis Sliwa is a nice man, but he is not a formidable candidate. That's on us. Maybe Republicans should start taking these elections seriously and running better candidates than this guy. But I just wanted to know if you think that there are people, how worried are you that there are going to be a group of people, whatever, more religious and conservative Jewish people and Republicans and whatever, who will pull for Cuomo? And is there any fantasy world where you think Mamdani can't win?
I mean, I'm always concerned. I think it's important to run scared because these municipal elections are very hard to poll. They're unpredictable. I mean, we saw that in the primary. Cuomo was leading by double digits, 20 something points, and then Mamdani came in and crushed him. Now, Mamdani's doing all the things that are right, which is ignoring the polls and running scared, meaning organizing. He has 150,000 people out there knocking on doors right now, which is crazy. That's why I think the turnout is 5 times what it was for early voting this weekend than it was in against Eric Adams when he ran in the general election. But with that being said, that race was during the pandemic too. So, there's some other factors here too. But Cuomo is not running a tight campaign. I honestly wonder where all that money that he's getting and all the IE money that's flowing in is going, because he's creating AI ads. Like, you can't even hire an ad firm to create a real ad. You've got the money for it. So it's like an AI ad that's really inappropriate. A couple of them that he thinks are funny. They're bizarre. I don't know if you guys have seen them.
I have
There's one that
not,
was
but I
homophobic.
trust your judgment.
There was one where they had Bill de Blasio and Mamdani. Like, it was like a joke where Bill de Blasio was like talking to Mamdani like he was mini-me, like Austin Powers. It was so weird. Just weird. Like, to the point
That's
where it's
bizarre.
comedy on our end. Like, thank you for the comedy. And he doesn't have a field operation. The closest thing to traditional political organizing he's done has been in the last couple of days with all these endorsements of rabbis and some key leaders. But like, that doesn't usually move you that much. So I think that's why people think it's inevitable. He doesn't really have a message, doesn't have answers. And the truth is he's, if someone says it's about experience, his experience sucks. He was a bad governor, like notoriously. And that is why so many
He had to
Democrats
leave office in disgrace. I mean,
exactly. And so many key Democrats that may not agree with Mamdani on most issues, or a lot of issues, I should say, will not line up for Andrew Cuomo because they know who he is. He's also a bully. He doesn't work well with others. How is he going to run the city? That's what I want to know. He keeps saying, I'm going to run the city. I'm going to stand up to Trump. You've got the same donors as Trump. You used to be his lawyer in the 80s. Oh, you're going to kind of deal with Kathy Hochul, your former lieutenant governor, that despises you? I would love to see how that works, Andrew. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to deal with you. And that is dysfunction. Whereas Mamdani, yes, he doesn't have experience, but he has an assembly experience, but he can also learn from the lessons of previous administrations. And the city, what I do know from my personal interactions with the former mayor, is that a lot of the city does function on its own. You have, deputy mayors and commissioners who are bureaucrats, frankly, and you just appoint the right people who've done a really good job. And there are a lot of those folks in the city. Of course, funding is going to be a big part of this. And I think that's why it's good that Mamdani is building a relationship with Kathy Hochul, because you don't want to have that toxic back and forth that, held up so much between Bill and Andrew Cuomo.